Hey everyone, welcome back to the Triathlon Weekly News Roundup presented by thefeed.com. This week is the Kona Preview Edition. I've been so excited to use this palm tree for this exact moment, so if I could get a thumbs up for this palm tree, I'd appreciate it. But all jokes aside, I'm so excited to preview the race with you guys. If you want to skip ahead to the preview, I wouldn't blame you at all. Go ahead and do that in the timeline. But as always, I'm going to go over the weekend's results with you guys, keep you all filled in, as well as a couple of the news headlines that came out. So let's get into those race results so we can get to that Kona preview. And we had some great races this weekend with some fantastic storylines. Challenge Barcelona took place. Looked like a beautiful course, by the way. Alistair Brownlee was returning, and I think he'd be really happy with his result there. He just faded in the last kilometer, and Yuri Kulin pushed on to take that victory there. He was on my podcast, which seems to be a bit of a good luck charm lately for a lot of athletes. So I've told the pro athletes if they want to sign up for my podcast without a fee, they better do that pretty soon because I might have to start charging. But on the women's side, Imogen Simmons took the win there. She was the favorite coming into the race, but she was challenged pretty well on the swim and the bike. She was just a little too strong for Lucy Buckingham on the run. But honestly, both of those athletes getting better and better. It's great to see them both coming back from injuries sustained at different times. Can't wait to see both of those athletes challenging at the very top next year. We also had the 70.3 Asia Pacific Championships in hot Malaysia. And it was Ashley Gentle and Josh Amberger getting a husband and wife win. How cool was that? Josh thought he might not ever get back to the top spot on a podium, but had a great all-around swim, bike, and run, which took him a little bit longer than he probably would have hoped to break Mike Phillips and Kurt McDonald, who had a pretty good breakthrough race there. And then Ashley Gentle was probably pushed harder on the swim and the bike than she imagined she would have been, but on the run, she came into her own as always and actually outran Josh Amberger's time. She actually outran most of the men's field as well. So what a result for them. They were married just under a year ago. What a way to celebrate. Moving on from there, there was a World Triathlon Cup in Rome. It was Rome's first ever World Triathlon Cup race, and Jason West was probably the biggest headline going into that one as he made a return to short course racing. He finished in 39th in the end. Vasco Velasa showed him just how high the bar is set right now in short course racing. Though he did have a pretty good race. He was only about 20 seconds off of the swim and about 30 seconds back on the run as far as his 5K time went. He lost a little bit of time though in transitions, and unfortunately was just in the wrong chase group on the bike, so lost a couple minutes there. But it'll be interesting to see how he does at the Olympic distance race next weekend. On the women's side there, Nina Im of Germany took the win. But moving on from there to the news headlines from the week, and there weren't too many, not even that many from Kona. There was one big headline we'll leave for last, but we have seen a follow-up from last week's video where Lionel's aero testing is underway, and it is looking to be paying off already. He was down from about a 0.23 CDA at the start to around 0.2 by the end of the video. It looked like the POC Aero helmet he put on, which is what Micah Newt was wearing when he beat him at Augusta 70.3, saved him quite a bit in aerodynamics. So really interested to see how Lionel's aero development continues. With all of his aero savings at the end of the video, they said that this could mean quite a few minutes over the course of a 70.3. So that's a scary proposition with Lionel's power on the bike, and yeah, I'm excited to see it. I believe he'll be going to the velodrome next, and then off in the off season to Germany for some wind tunnel testing. Next up, we had a lot of announcements for upcoming races. Magnus Ditlev was one of those who announced he'll be racing next at Ironman Israel coming up in just a few weeks. But what was also interesting is that he noted on there that this would be in order to validate his spot for the World Championships next year. Now, Ironman actually changed that this year, saying that if you had podiumed at a World Championships, you actually didn't need to validate anymore. So it looks like they've changed that rule back. And that honestly was a huge benefit for the likes of Taylor Knibb, Sam Laidlow, who didn't have to validate their spots at this year's World Championships. So that will change quite a bit for athletes, I think, because especially for those athletes looking to balance PTO races and World Championships races, now if they have to validate, that could take up quite a bit more time and might cause them to prioritize one over the other. So that's an interesting story to keep an eye on. But speaking of upcoming start list, people putting their names up on there, we saw the start list for Ironman Portugal come out. Some huge names on the men's side here. We've got Patrick Lange racing again, Jan Stratman, Peter Hemrich, Clement Mignon, Thor Bendix Madsen, Josh Hamburger, Cameron Worth. It is absolutely stacked. Also, Nikki Bartlett will be ending her season at Ironman Portugal for the women's. It's not as strong a field as you'd imagine, with most of them being in Kona, Hawaii, but still some good names on there. Can't wait for that race. We've also got Challenge Majorca, which I have a lot of athletes coming from Challenge Barcelona to race there. But again, the men's side looks a lot stronger here. 85 strength of field score with just 19,000 euros on offer. For me, the headline athletes here are Mathis Marjorie, Frederick Funk, and Menno Koolhaas. But then also, the 70.3 world champ will finally be racing again, Rico Bogan. We'll have to see if he can back up that crazy, shocking result we saw in Lahti, Finland. So I am going to be glued to that one. Those names are serious. Also, Alistair Brownlee, like I said earlier, will be racing there. That's just going to be a cracker of a race with that start line. Like I said, also Jason West racing at World Triathlon Cup in Brazil. And then there's also one in Chengdu, China. So keep an eye out on all of that. One other last bit of news, the Chicago Marathon this last weekend, the world record was broken, 2 hours, 35 seconds. I usually don't bring up other sports, but that is just crazy. They're getting so close to breaking under that sub 2 hours in a regular marathon. Interestingly enough, Kiptum was wearing prototype Nike Alpha 3 shoes. So that could make a difference in the triathlon world if a lot of athletes are wearing these fast development shoes coming out next year for everyone to buy. Will we see that 2 hour 30 marathon finally break in the Ironman? I think we will. But then to the biggest news of the week, and this gets us on to our Kona preview, and this was that Taylor Knibb announced, he didn't even mean to announce it, I don't think, but in a Triathlon Hour podcast with Jack Kelly, she said that she is no longer with her head coach, Ian O'Brien, anymore. Like I said, it just kind of came out of the blue in the conversation. Not too many details were given on that news, but it is for sure huge news that could affect how she does in Kona. And yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think about it down below. But that takes us on to the Kona preview. It's the first ever women's only Ironman World Championships, which has the highest strength of field score, I think, of any race this year by far, of 94. Everyone is there right now. And I say that with my fingers crossed because I really hope no one pulls off. Last year's was just 87 for context. So who is the favorite? I'm actually genuinely asking you this question. I'd love to know who it is. We've heard so much talk about Taylor Knibb, but is she actually the favorite coming into this race? She's never raced Kona before. She hasn't even raced an Ironman before. And now without her head coach and some big changes happening there, is she actually the favorite? I'd be curious to hear what you think down below. Is it Daniela Ryf, the queen of the island? I'd have to say so. So in order to preview this race, I was trying to think of how best to do it, and I've decided in the end to mix it up with my predictions and give you my top 5 predictions, see how the race will unfold for them, and I think that'll preview the race just fine, and then also talk about some dark horses at the end. So at number 5, and keep in mind, I believe any of these girls could win this race, but I've got Lucy Charles-Barkley. She's a 4 times Kona runner-up, and I'd actually love to see her take the win here. I believe she'll swim at the front of the race, obviously. I think she will get away from Taylor. I think Taylor will have focused a little bit more on her bike and run to get ready for this race. And I think Lucy's top end, long distance speed will just be too good for Taylor. Also, Lucy loves the open water. She'll also really want a gap on Taylor starting the bike and hold her off for as long as possible and then see if she can go with her, which I don't think she can. Really, nobody's been able to go with Taylor on the bike this year. But Taylor might be holding a lot more conservative power because it's her first Ironman, her first Kona. So she potentially could go with Taylor. If she does, then I think her whole race changes up for sure. But for now, I think just her running has not quite been there. Her fastest marathon in Kona is a 3:02, which I don't think is good enough for the other athletes on my list in order to compete for the win right now. I would love to see it. Like I said, that's just my predictions. Let me know what you think down below. Although I do want to mention her bike is one of the most beautiful bikes I've ever seen, and that bike definitely deserves a win. So hopefully it brings her some good luck. But moving on from there to number 4, I've got Daniela Ryf. Not much more needs to be said about Daniela. I kind of said she's the favorite coming into this. She's the queen of the island. She just destroyed Challenge Roth this year. However, she has had some personal things coming up, and yeah, last year she didn't have a great race here, so that's why I've got her at number 4. She was 7 minutes down to Lucy off of the swim last year, so I think she's got to do a lot better than that this year. And on the bike, I believe she's got to get 5 minutes on the other athletes I have on my podium in order to hold on the run for the win. Her fastest marathon is 2:56 right now on the island. Some of these athletes could be running around the 2:50 mark. I believe that would be really hard for her to do, however, on the bike, but she showed at Roth that at the right time, she is unstoppable. It just depends if she brings with her Taylor Knibb, who she brings with her on the bike, or if she doesn't bring anyone at all. I think that would be her main goal, is to get away from everyone else. Now, I think, as she always does, she will turn the jets on after Hawi, so keep that in mind. If she isn't doing too well, just wait for the turnaround at Hawi Town, and we'll see her really light that course up. But moving on from Daniela, at number 3, Chelsea Sodaro. Now, the defending world champion has said she's much fitter than last year in the Ironman Fighting Chance video, which is a scary prospect considering how well she performed in the heat last year. It was a great result for her at the Asian Open recently, and she's been in Hawaii now for a while on training camp, so I think she'll really fare well in the heat. She had a brilliant swim last year that had her just 3 minutes down off of Lucy Charles, and I think that's exactly what she'll hope for again. By all accounts, she is swimming pretty well right now. So can she get away from the other girls like Daniela Ryf, Laura Philipp, Annie Howe, Kat Matthews on the swim? That's the big question for me. How well will she bike as well? Will she be able to bike with those girls, stay in a pack? I think that would suit her really well to show just how good she can run in the heat and over the course of an Ironman marathon. So Chelsea, number 3 for me, just because she's not in as good a form as the next 2 picks. And then at number 2, I've got Annie Howe. Apart from my number 1, there's been no one better in form this year. She's raced 5 times this year, won everything except for the race she lost to Daniela at Challenge Roth, where Daniela produced a once-in-a-lifetime performance. And then she played herself a little bit with her inner tube at the Asian Open in Singapore, getting wrapped around her wheel. So we didn't quite get to see what she was made of against Ashley Gentle. But Anne has got the experience of this island. She's won here before. And yeah, she ran a 2:44 in Roth. And in my opinion, she could be the fastest runner here. And yeah, I think at 40 years old, Anne really wants to take another Kona win. So I think Anne will most likely swim with Daniela Ryf, probably also with Laura Philipp. But she wouldn't want to be around that 7-minute mark she was last year. Anne is biking better than ever, better than most right now. She's actually the 3rd ranked bike athlete on the PTO rankings right now. And I think she could stay with almost anyone on the bikes. And if she's off the bike at the front of the race, then she is my pick for win for sure. But if that's not the case, it leaves me with my number 1 pick, Taylor Knibb, who I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I think she's going to swim really close. I don't think she'll quite swim on Lucy's feet, but then I think she'll bike straight away up to Lucy, and then she will drop Lucy on the bike. I think she has the strength on the bike we've seen to make it a whole 180 kilometers and be out in the lead. The run is really where it'll be interesting to see Taylor. She seems to be running better and better every time we see her this year. Of course, she had surgery on her foot back in January, so that was obviously going to be the case. But will it be enough to survive the Kona heat and her first Ironman marathon? We'll have to see. I think it will be. I think if she's riding conservatively, if she's fueling well, and she's such a smart girl that I could see her doing that. So that's why I've got her at my number 1 pick. I think she will hold on the run, but I think it will be close between her and Annie. So that's who I've got. But I've also got to mention the dark horses, Kat Matthews, a Kona rookie with perhaps one of the most underrated runs in triathlon. So I expect her to be moving up a lot of places, and I could see her honestly challenging for the win or for a podium. I've got Laura Philipp, a point to prove after last year's 5-minute penalty in Kona, and also a 70.3 world champs that she probably wasn't too happy with. Also got Skye Moench on here. I talked a little bit about her last week. She wanted to call out Kat as her rival. And if she's calling Kat out as her rival and wants to compete with Kat, then I think she is in some good form. And yeah, I think we can expect to see Skye having a great race here. But then probably the biggest dark horse for me, who I'm really excited to watch, is Lisa Norden. She's coming off an Ironman Sweden win. In her Fighting Chance interview, she said she's the fittest she's been since 2012. And let me tell you, that is a big thing to say, considering she was second at the Olympic Games there. And also, she said she was running down Anna Haug back then. So yeah, huge dark horse for me. She really has no weakness. But then I can't not mention Fenella Langridge, who was 6th here last year. She performed brilliantly with a fantastic swim and bike that kind of shocked us all when she was up riding with Lucy. And unfortunately, her marathon didn't go to plan, but I think she will have learned a lot. And I think she could be having a fantastic race as well. And then Sarah True, I have to mention her because she's just phenomenal to me. She says she's doing 5 a.m. wake-up sessions right now, which is the only way she can balance training, school, her hospital practicum, and also her young son. So yeah, Sarah True, a phenomenal athlete who I think could challenge for a top 5 result here. So those are my dark horses. Those are my picks. That's my preview. Let me know what you guys think. Keep an eye out for course records with a field like this. 8 hours, 26 minutes, 18 seconds for Daniela Ryf back in 2018. That was a fast day because Lucy Charles Barkley also set the fastest swim there, 48 minutes and 14 seconds. And Daniela, of course, broke the course record on the bike there, 4 hours and 26 seconds. But then the run is held by Mirinda Carfrey, 2 hours and 50 minutes, 26 seconds back in 2014. And that's the one I really think is going to fall with this field. So keep an eye out on that. I know I will be for sure. If you want to hear more about Kona, check out my podcast. Also check out TryRating.com. He's made a 75-page preview for the race. It's absolutely insane. It's got everything you'd want to know. And here are his predicted results for the race. I always find this fascinating. Again, it's coming down to the wire between these women. And there will also be another giveaway like I did with the Men's World Championship race. So put down your predictions for the race, 1, 2, and 3, and then also the overall finisher's time. And you'll be sent a Morton starter pack courtesy of thefeed.com. So make sure you drop in the comments and do that. And then finally onto our last segments that we always do, the hot question, video of the week, article of the week, and humor of the week. I'll go through these really quick. I know I've been talking for quite a while. But hot question, put your marketing hats on. What would you do to market Kona to get it bigger into a wider audience? Especially because I would love to see this women's race getting so much more attention. Would you do a Netflix documentary? Would you just put ads everywhere on YouTube? Would you do something that other pro sports aren't doing? Would you change up the race a little bit? How would you promote this race to make it bigger? Super curious on that. Not an easy thing, I'm sure. Then article of the week, I've got to give this one to Triathlete magazine, comparing and contrasting how different the bikes are these days compared to what we've seen before on the island. I had such a chuckle reading through that one. And I can't wait to see what 30 years down the road is like and how we are looking back and perhaps laughing at the bikes we have now. It's just hard to imagine, but yeah, that's a really cool article by them. And then video of the week, this one goes to Ironman's teaser trailer for the race that they put on Instagram. I love that. That got me hyped. And then finally, humor of the week, I found a live video of Magnus Ditlev testing out his new one-bite setup for Ironman Israel. Couldn't believe it. All right, that's it for the Kona preview show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to leave me a like for this amazing palm tree here. And yeah, heading to Kona. I can't wait to give you guys lots of videos and updates from out there. And we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.